I was one of those guys who never really took a sick day. 39 years old when I started at Dana and Bright Systems, 68 when they fired me. Nearly 3 decades of quiet loyalty, not the flashy type. I showed up early, left late, remembered birthdays, kept coffee stocked, and buried my ego in paperwork. But none of that mattered when I walked into work on a fog-drenched Monday morning and found my keycard disabled. At first, I thought it was a glitch. Happens. Tech hiccups. System resets, whatever. I buzzed at security and smiled through the speaker. "Hey, Steve here. Card's not working." A pause. The kind that raises hair. "Mr. Whitmore, you've been asked to report to HR." 5th floor. No, good morning. No small talk. Just the kind of voice you use when you're delivering bad news you've rehearsed. My stomach sank before I even stepped inside the elevator. The 5th floor, HR's glass mausoleum, where careers go to die. The receptionist wouldn't meet my eyes, just nodded toward the double doors. When I walked in, my boss, Kyle Evers, sat there like he owned oxygen. Mid-30s, gelled hair, smile too sharp to be honest. He'd been brought in 2 years ago to modernize operations. Everyone knew what that meant. Downsize the old, hire the cheap. Kyle smiled, like a wolf wearing my son's Cub Scout scarf. "Steve, take a seat." My legs moved like someone else was piloting them. I sat across from him, heart pounding, throat dry. "Steve," he began, folding his hands like some holy man. "We've decided to let you go." Just like that. Not even a thank you. I blinked. "What?" "It's not performance related," he said quickly, like that would help. "You've been a solid contributor, but the company's evolving. We're restructuring. It's not personal. Not personal. Like a bullet to the brain isn't personal. I've been here 29 years, I said slowly. I trained. Half the people still in your department. I kept this place running during the merger." Kyle tilted his head like he was curious about some abstract painting. "We appreciate your service. You'll receive a standard severance package. 3 months. Legal's reviewing the final paperwork. We'll need your company laptop and ID before noon." That's when I knew. Knew it in my bones. This wasn't just restructuring. This was a setup. A targeted, premeditated clean-out. They wanted me gone fast. No warning, no scene. And that's when I remembered the drive. A small, unmarked, external hard drive I'd kept out of habit, like a digital scrapbook. I'd backed up old logs, records, client correspondences. Not intentionally, just stuff I thought might come in handy someday. Old dogs hoard things, especially when the new pups start nipping at their heels. And I knew there were things on that drive Kyle wouldn't want anyone to see. Because 2 months earlier, I'd stumbled across a memo that didn't belong in my inbox. A misrouted internal email chain about contract bid rigging, clients overcharged, services unrendered, budgets funneled to shell vendors. And Kyle's name popped up more than once. I didn't report it. I should have. But back then, I told myself, pick your battles. I was months from retirement. No use setting myself on fire over corporate rot. But now, as I sat there watching Kyle pretend to be sympathetic, something inside me calcified. This wasn't just a layoff. This was a cover-up. And I wasn't leaving, empty-handed. The following days were a blur of beige legalese and sterile silence. 3 months' pay and a gag clause longer than a Tolstoy novel. I signed nothing, said little, smiled when I had to. Meanwhile, I dug. That night, I retrieved the hard drive from the fireproof safe under my basement stairs. I hadn't looked at it in years. Most of the files were ancient reports, budgets, and outdated training manuals. But then I found the folder, Alt Contracts 2017. Inside were 7 subfolders, 7 vendors. The names were bland: Lawnex Consulting, Prime Path Solutions, DataSpear. Group, all fake. I cross-checked addresses, PO boxes, billing records. Each vendor had received over $200,000 for projects that never existed. And the invoices had Kyle's digital signature. I didn't know what scared me more, that I had this evidence, or that I almost deleted it 2 months ago to clear space for vacation photos. My hands were trembling, but it wasn't fear. It was rage. He thought I was just another number to be crossed off. He didn't know what I knew. I started watching Kyle. I'd park 2 blocks from the office and wait in my beat-up Toyota with coffee that tasted like ash. He left every day at 6:15 sharp, always alone, Bluetooth jammed in his ear. I followed once, just to see. He drove to a slick high-rise downtown. Not home. Some private firm with no signage, no parking validation. Stayed inside for hours. One night, I walked into the building pretending to be a courier. The security guard barely looked up. I took the elevator to the 22nd floor. Frosted glass, coded entry, locked. But I saw the logo, Candleford Ventures. I didn't know what it meant. Yet, back home, I dug deeper. Candleford Ventures was a private equity firm with a string of offshore accounts and shell companies. And guess what? 3 of the vendors that build Dana and Bright. Candleford held major stakes in all 3. It clicked like a gun cocking. Kyle wasn't just firing me. He was burying the last person who could connect the dots between his day job and his dirty side hustle. But he made one mistake. He underestimated what a desperate old man can do when he has nothing left to lose. A week later, I called an old friend, name's Margot, used to work PR at Dana until her department was restructured. Now she freelanced, ran a podcast about corporate corruption, sharp, merciless. And she owed me a favor from back in 2006. I didn't sugarcoat it. Hey, I've got documents proving financial fraud, shell vendors, and collusion between my ex-boss and a private equity firm. You in? A beat of silence. Then, Steve, if this is a joke, it's not. She met me at a diner off I-94 the next morning, wore sunglasses even inside. She scanned the files on her laptop for an hour, not speaking. Then she leaned back, lips parted like she was looking at a crime scene photo. This isn't just fraud, she said. It's federal. I nodded. I want to burn him down, but I want to do it right. Margot grinned slowly. Then we're going to need a lawyer. And a plan. The lawyer Margot called was a guy named Elias Thorne. Ex-DOJ, now running his own boutique firm downtown. Wore tailored suits that probably cost more than my first car and had a voice like midnight radio. Low, smooth, lethal. He listened to my story without blinking. Took notes in a leather-bound journal. When I finished, he looked at me the way surgeons do right before they crack open your ribs. This is organized financial fraud, he said, tapping the journal. He's laundering money through dummy vendors, likely cooking books to inflate company value. And if Candleford's involved, we're talking multi-layered conspiracy. My palms were sweating. Can we nail him? Elias nodded. Yes, but we'll need more. Screenshots aren't enough. We need a live trail, logins, transfers, emails. We catch him in motion. We bury him. Margot leaned in. What about bait? Elias raised a brow. You willing to go undercover, Steve? I looked between them. I was 68 years old. My joints hurt when it rained. I got winded climbing stairs. But Kyle had taken more than my job. He'd humiliated me, erased me like I was disposable. Tell me what to do. Step 1 was rebuilding my access. Kyle had stripped my credentials, but he wasn't careful. One of the folders on my old laptop had a backdoor login, an old developer key we used during system upgrades. It was still active. Sloppy mistake. Elias walked me through a trace software install. Don't touch anything you don't need, he warned. Just track. Let them hang themselves. For 2 weeks, I played Ghost, logged in late at night from a burner laptop, always through a VPN. I monitored emails, project logs, payroll entries. What I found made my blood run cold. Kyle had expanded the scam, a new batch of vendors, invoices larger than ever, one for $480,000 for data migration. Analysis, the service didn't exist. The vendor's address, a shuttered auto shop in Nevada. Then came the jackpot, an internal memo from Kyle to Candleford's managing partner. Subject line: Final phase cleanout. It read like a hit list. 5 senior employees, all over 50, scheduled for quiet terminations within the next quarter. My name was crossed off. They weren't just cutting costs. They were laundering bonuses through fake layoffs, firing veterans, reabsorbing their salaries through phony contractor payments, then splitting the profits through Candleford's shell firms. Margot stared at the screen like it was a corpse. This is systemic abuse. They're stealing livelihoods to pad quarterly margins. Elias smiled grimly. And we're going to bleed them dry. Step 2 was confrontation. Not public. Too risky. No, we needed Kyle scared, not defensive. Sloppy people make mistakes. So we baited the hook. Margot drafted an anonymous tip email and sent it to Kyle's company account. Your secrets aren't safe, Kyle. We know about Candleford. We know about the invoices. We have the files. You've got 7 days. We watched him unravel in real time. He changed passwords, held urgent meetings, purged dozens of internal messages. But in his panic, he triggered something beautiful. He initiated a private transfer to an offshore account. That's what Elias needed. Real-time fraud. The next morning, Elias sent everything to the feds. It didn't take long. The FBI raided Dana and Bright the following Monday. News spread like gasoline on fire. Employees escorted out, servers confiscated. Kyle was arrested on the spot. Wire fraud, embezzlement, conspiracy, obstruction. His mugshot hit the news by sunset. And just like that, the man who'd fired me with a smile was gone. But that wasn't the twist. No, the twist came 2 days later. Margot called me breathless. Steve, they're freezing Candleford's assets. Good. No, you don't get it. One of the shell companies used your name, as a co-signer on vendor payments. My mouth went dry. What? Someone forged your digital signature. They're trying to make you the fool guy. My knees buckled. I sat down hard on the kitchen floor. I was being framed. Elias moved fast. He met with the lead FBI investigator, produced metadata, keystroke logs, and a sworn affidavit about my termination. But the feds were cautious. To them, I wasn't a whistleblower. I was a potential co-conspirator. The next few days were hell. I couldn't sleep, couldn't eat. I saw my life collapsing in reverse, my pension revoked, my name smeared, my family ashamed. But then, Margot found it. An archived system log, buried in a subdirectory. A time-stamped record showing Kyle accessing my old credentials after I was fired. The metadata matched the forged signatures. Elias presented it at a federal hearing. My name was cleared. Kyle's wasn't. Turns out he'd forged multiple employee credentials to spread liability. But in doing so, he created a trail of digital fingerprints that led right back to him. That was the final nail in his coffin. 2 months later, I was invited back to Dana and Bright. New CEO. Clean house. Apologies. They offered to reinstate my pension and give me a consulting title to avoid a wrongful termination lawsuit. I declined. Instead, I gave a speech at a company-wide meeting. Nothing dramatic, just the truth. Never mistake silence for weakness, I said. Some of us are quiet because we're listening, and we never forget what we hear. I walked out to a standing ovation. I thought it would feel like triumph. Seeing Kyle's face plastered across every business news network. Hearing reporters call him the disgraced executive behind one of the largest internal embezzlement schemes in the Midwest. Watching his lawyer stammer through a press release outside the courthouse. But the truth, it felt hollow. Like I'd reached the summit of a mountain only to find the view obscured by fog. Because even though Kyle was facing federal charges, even though Candleford Ventures was imploding, even though I'd walked away clean, nothing could undo the fact that for 29 years, I gave my life to a company that discarded me like I was a glitch in the system. I didn't want revenge anymore. I wanted meaning. One morning, a letter arrived in a plain white envelope. Return address, U.S. Attorney's Office. My hands trembled as I opened it. For a second, I expected some final gut punch. Maybe a subpoena. Maybe a, "We missed something, you're still screwed." But no, it was something else. A formal recognition of my cooperation in a federal investigation. It used words like instrumental and commendable. There was even a signed note. "Thank you for your courage, Mr. Whitmore. Few people do the right thing when they have nothing left to gain." I stared at it for a long time. Maybe there was still something I could gain after all. A week later, I called Margot. "Let's build something," I said. She was quiet for a beat. "What kind of something?" "Something that helps the ones who don't know how to fight back. People like me. People who get buried under restructuring or scapegoated by suits with shiny shoes." She smiled. I could hear it through the phone. "You mean a war room?" "No," I said. "A sanctuary." We launched a non-profit called The Last Stand Project. Small at first. Just the two of us and a pro bono lawyer named Jace who'd once taken on a pharmaceutical giant and lived to tell the tale. We started with workshops. Know your rights. Whistleblower shield. Document everything. Then came the hotline. The floodgates opened. We heard from nurses forced to falsify patient charts. From truckers strong-armed into breaking federal hours laws. From factory workers docked for bathroom breaks. People who'd been gaslit into silence. People like I used to be. And for every story we heard, we helped draft letters, filed complaints, connected victims with legal allies. One day I got a voicemail from a woman with a voice like cracked glass. "You don't know me, but I read your story. I thought I was alone. I thought I was crazy. But you made me believe I'm not powerless. Thank you." I sat in my car and cried like I hadn't in years. And then Kyle tried to contact me. 3 months before his sentencing, I got a letter, handwritten, sloppy, like it had been done in a jail cell. "Steve, I don't expect forgiveness, but I need you to know, it was never about you. It was survival. Pressure from the board, from Candleford. I was in over my head. You were just in the way." I laughed when I read that. In the way. Like I was furniture. Like my life was a scheduling conflict. I wrote back exactly one sentence. "You didn't fire me. You freed me." I never heard from him again. Kyle was sentenced to 11 years in federal prison. The judge called his scheme a calculated betrayal of trust and a textbook example of corporate rot. Several former board members were indicted. Dana & Bright was bought out by a competitor and restructured under new ethics oversight. Funny thing, my name ended up in a few business magazines. The reluctant whistleblower who took down a corporate empire. They wanted interviews, book deals. One guy pitched a streaming series. I turned it all down. That's not who I am. Now, every Friday afternoon, I volunteer at a local job centre, help folks write resumes, practice interviews, coach them through that sick feeling of getting let, go after decades of service. I tell them, "You're not a number. You're not obsolete. You're a tree with roots deep in the ground. No storm can erase your worth." They look at me like I've been where they are, because I have. Sometimes justice doesn't come with sirens or headlines. Sometimes it comes quietly, in a letter, in a phone call, in the calm breath you take when you finally sleep without dread. I lost a job, yes, but I found my voice. I lost a career, but I built a purpose, and I learned the most painful, powerful truth of all. Sometimes the greatest act of rebellion is refusing to stay silent.